Great. So thank you so much for joining us for the sixth session of the WEPs Deep-dive series session for 2024. My name is Miwa Park, and I am the WEPs coordinator at Women's Empowerment Principles Global Secretariat at UN Women. So in today's webinar, we are diving into another WEPs pillar, marketplace, focusing on gender-responsive marketing. So WEPs principle number 5, enterprise development, supply chain, and marketing practices acknowledge companies' power to change perceptions and impacts on social and gender norms through advertising. So we encourage companies to portray women, but also men in modern, authentic, and multidimensional role in their marketing practices. So today, you will hear from 2 web signatories who have been working on incorporating gender-responsive marketing practices, and a UN Women colleague who's been working on removing biases from advertising and marketing. So let me go over today's agenda. We will first hear some introductory remarks from NFL, head of the WEPs Global Secretariat at UN Women. Then we will invite speakers of today for their presentation and move on to the roundtable and Q&A session. I'll continue with my logistical reminders. So feel free to write your questions to the panelists in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen throughout the webinar. If you'd like to communicate with other participants, please use the chat function as you are doing right now. And your questions will be answered during the Q&A session or through the chat anytime. We will answer these. So I also wanted to remind you that this webinar is being recorded and later will be uploaded to www.weps.org website to be shared with the public. So lastly, we will have a short evaluation survey that will pop up when you're leaving, so please take some time to enter it. So now to get started, I'd like to invite Anna to deliver her opening remarks. Anna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Miwa, and thanks everyone for joining us today. We have a very exciting session in front of us, and I hope that you will be participating in the chat and also in the Q&A function if you have particular questions for the audience, for our speakers. So as Miwa was mentioning, marketing and advertising are part of Principle 5 that outlines action in the marketplace. And if you get this right, it could represent great potentials for your company. While if you get it wrong, it can also have huge risks. So we are going to help you today to understand those opportunities and those risks by learning from others and hearing from our speakers. But it's all about knowing your counterpart, whether they are consumers or other businesses, whether you're a B2C company or a B2B company. So when we speak about, I know that we have a diverse audience today, so I thought I'll just start to clarify what we are talking about when we talk about marketing and advertising. So marketing is the process of identifying and predicting and meeting customer needs, whether customer is a consumer or a business. It's about brand awareness and positioning. It's about building long-term relationship with these customers, clients, and other stakeholders. And as indicated in the name, B2C marketing is focusing on consumers and B2B marketing towards other businesses. And we will hear both types during this session. Advertising, on the other hand, is an exercise to promote a company, its products and services through paid channels. And it's about driving immediate actions and sales. And these two marketing and advertising practices work in synergies. But when it comes to gender equality and the WEPs, marketing and advertising practices should take into account the diversity of the audience. And 3 points that I like to make: the perspective, that it should give equal consideration of the needs, perspectives, and priorities of all genders. Presence, it gives them an equal voice. Sometimes we see that some, including women, are in the background and not necessarily have a voice in those marketing and advertising practices. But it's also about personality, that they are portraying gender equally, fairly, and respectfully, and also empowered. And we'll hear more about this from our UN Women colleague, Sthu, later on today. But why is this important? Media and advertising play an important role in our society. Companies have the power to change how people think about gender roles and help shape the way that we view one another. In fact, the survey showed that 76% of people agree that advertising has the power to shape how we look at each other and how we see each other. However, until recently, it's been used to reinforce gender stereotypes. These stereotypes are often simplistic, inaccurate generalization of women and men based on pre-existing beliefs, ideas, and prejudice of the advertising and marketing teams and business leaders. Such portrayals are problematic as they create inaccurate and harmful social expectations on what roles are appropriate for women and men and how women and men should behave in society. Think back to the ads of the 50s and 60s that show women in the kitchen, managing a family, and taking care of their husbands. In the 70s and 80s, women shifted towards being portrayed as a little bit more independent from men and was shown in more diverse roles. However, women were still too often portrayed as sex symbols or unattainable images of perfection. And this practice has continued, and we can still see it today. With the creation of social media platforms that are being used for these practices, social media has come to play an important role in how young girls view themselves. For example, in the US, 92% of teenagers are using the internet daily. And spending too much time on social media has been associated with body image issues and eating disorders. Almost 88% of girls say that they compare themselves to images in the media, and 50% claim that they feel negatively affected. With the importance of people placing on advertising, it's vital that you and the brands and marketeers take responsibility to represent women in modern, positive manner to further shift our social norms as we strive for gender equality. It is not only the right thing to do, but it also helps create new opportunities and reduces risk for your company. As a web signatory, you're expected to challenge the outdated gender stereotypes or bias. This includes portraying idolized beauty standards or body shape. It also includes featuring scenarios in which people do not conform to gender stereotypes, such as fathers taking care of his baby. Some few guidelines to keep in mind about the ads. They should not reinforce particular roles as only the responsibility of a specific gender, as I mentioned earlier, women in the household and taking care of all the household responsibilities. It should not show one gender better than the other, or one that fails to achieve a daily task due to their gender. Not depict women's happiness or success based purely on somebody else's approval. Not belittle a person for showing emotional vulnerability or sensitivity. Also, if your company decides to use influencers or brand ambassadors, it's important that you welcome diverse and inclusive influencers and brand ambassadors that stand for gender equality. And also make sure that there's diversity in your marketing, PR, and media teams. You have the power to shape how women and girls are portrayed in society, through the ads, through the media, and you can influence corporate and popular culture to empower women and ultimately deliver stronger business outcomes. So today we'll hear from one B2C company and one B2B company on their efforts to overcome gender stereotypes through marketing and advertising practices. And we'll also hear from the Unstereotype Alliance hosted here at UN Women. So we have a packed agenda ahead of us, and let's go, Miwa, back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. I'll introduce today's speakers, but before that, I'd like to let you know that even if you raise your hand, we cannot take that. So if you have any comments or questions, please use the Q&A or chat box. So moving on to introduce you to our speakers today. So we have Arpita Kalubarme from Mondelez, India. Arpita is a dedicated marketing professional with extensive experience across various industries. She has 3 years of experience in tech, 4 years at Procter & Gamble selling diapers and detergent, and 4 years at Johnson & Johnson marketing sanity napkins. Currently, she is at Mondelez, India, creating compelling ads for chocolates for the past 1.5 years. Arpita enjoys traveling and developing marketing campaigns that resonate deeply with customers. Then we have Maryna Dudnyk from Intellias in Ukraine. Maryna is currently working as Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator at Intellias. Her main role involves promoting diversity and inclusion within the organization. For the past 2 years, she's been dedicated to creating initiatives that support equality, diversity, and inclusivity, both internally and externally. Her aim is to make D&I principle an integral part of the company culture. She also leads the company's women's community. So last but not least, we have Sthu Zungu-Noel from Unstereotype Alliance National Expansion Program Lead. Sthu leads the National Expansion Program for the UN Women-convened Unstereotype Alliance, using the power of the advertising industry as a force for good and equality. In this role, she oversees a growing network of dynamic national chapters across the world that are driving positive social norms for gender equality. Prior to joining UN Women, Sthu had held several international roles, including head of brand communication for Mini at BMW Group, where she led the successful relaunch of the Mini brand. More recently, she was head of South African tourism in Italy and North America, spearheading, among others, the brand building campaigns during the FIFA Soccer World Cup. So let's welcome today's speaker, and I'm gonna give the floor to Arpita to kick us off. So Arpita, over to you.
Thank you so much, Meva. Can you guys hear me? Cool, perfect. I am going to start sharing my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Cool.
But it's not in the presentation mode. You may want to put it in presentation.
Yes, cool.
Great.
Okay, so cool. Okay, cool. So hi everyone. This is Arpita. I'm working with Mondelez India, and I'll be speaking to you from the perspective of a marketer who's worked in a lot of B2C companies of how we are marketing to consumers, to the end consumers, right? So as Anna rightly said, advertising has been a multi-billion-dollar industry that has influenced and reinforced a lot of unconscious societal beliefs. As advertisers, what do? We sell products by creating meaning through codes, which are cultural associations through which we learn as a society. And what usually happens is that we want to use shortcuts or stereotypes, which are oversimplified ideas about certain groups. And this is where this problem of stereotyping arises. Some common examples of these stereotypes are like, if you have to show a caretaking role, there are higher chances that you'll show a female as a caregiver rather than showing a male in such a category, right? If you take a beauty industry, it's highly possible that, most likely you'll be having a very young and attractive, a fair-skinned female character rather than a man who's more skewed towards the average look of the current, of the nation that you're advertising in, right? What also happens is that another stereotype that is often used is that male authority is used to show dominance in terms of category expertise, because of which a lot of times in terms of authoritative roles, men are given this role rather than women. And all of this kind of makes us believe that, advertising both reflects and shapes social norms. And it definitely is the double-edged sword where it has the power to challenge or reinforce stereotypes about women. Talking about stereotypes, and I want to deep dive into these categories. I have worked in home care, I've worked in personal care also, and I've worked in chocolates. And these are some of the learnings that I've seen and which has been called out across various reports. So if you look at the food and home care industry, right, what you'll typically see, you'll see a woman who's effortlessly meeting family needs. She's portraying a very happy family life. However, what happens is behind this happy family life that is portrayed in ads, it obscures the labor and the stress behind their smiles. What you'll also see is that women in such ads are rarely shown at ease or leisure. They're often depicted as being very busy. They're frequently in motion in between tasks, contrasting with men or other family members who are seated and at rest. There's also a lot of task gendering that happens where food and cleaning create a clear divide between men and women's role. This division persists across brands, reinforcing these traditional labor roles. What also happens is that women are shown in ads to be constantly seeking approval from authoritative figures like, let's say, a mother-in-law or a husband, positioning their role as if to serve and seek validation from others. And there is also a male voice of reason, which is this authoritative figure like doctors or experts. And these male voices dominate ads for appliances, detergents, and health products. And what usually happens is if you remember seeing any of these ads, the voiceover that happens that is explaining what's happening in the ad or that's explaining about the product, women voiceovers are used to show emotion. Men's voiceover are used to show authority or like subtle aggression or condescension about the female choices. So this is how these stereotypes run across the home care industry. If we look at the beauty industry is full of them. Females are usually treated as silent muses, where she remains silent, where she's embodying sensuality through her appearance alone. Beauty, the less said, the better, because skincare ads frequently feature women comparing themselves to a more beautiful protagonist who conforms to conventional standard. What does this do? It seeds in self-doubt, reinforcing beauty stereotypes and implying a hierarchy based on traditional notions of beauty. Looking at the finance industry, women are excluded from this finance industry advertisements. These kind of TV commercials often show men talking to each other, making suggestions, making authoritative decisions about finance, while women are sidelined in these advertisements. What is also, if a woman exists in a finance category ad, it is shown that she's dependent on the male provider. It portrays women as dependent and almost childlike under the man's care. Coming to gadgets and wheels, be it your mobile phones, be it your cars or your bikes, right? There is objectification that happens, which is just to place a woman next to a car and not just as a passenger, but like an object of desire. This kind of adds to the allure and enhanceability of the car's desirability, so to say. You usually don't show a woman who's driving, right? Woman is usually shown as the passenger. It is the guy who's driving the car. If the woman is shown in such a setting for a gadget or a wheel, she is usually shown as like making decisions for the color. I want a red car versus a black car. It is not where she's making those decisions related to the gadgetry of the car or the mobile phone, right? And often if they are used to subtly indicate that it is women are used to indicate the aesthetic appeal of the product design, whereas men kind of tend to demonstrate the gadget's functionality and performance. So this is how we see these stereotypes across categories. And now coming to this question of, is it all gloom and doom, right? There are some steps forward where women are portrayed as having shown agency. And I'll talk to you from the standpoint of an Indian consumer who's seen this evolution across years. Like Anna mentioned, the 70s women, and I'll talk about the laundry category, which is in this home care category. And all these three examples that I'll be talking about right now are from the laundry category, right? The India of 70s, we had this protagonist called Lataji, who kind of was introduced as an independent and assertive housewife who valued quality. The script of this advertisement was where she's arguing with a shopkeeper, where she's managing the budget of the house, and hence she values value for money, and hence the detergent that she used had to give value for the money that she is putting. And she did it very confidently, she did it very assertively, as running the house on her own terms. And she became a household name and inspiration for other homemakers. And she became a very memorable character in Indian advertising. This was Indian women of the 70s. In 90s, what happened was this same brand, it showed women as enabling family time, managing everything effortlessly with optimism, cheer, and a sense of ease. The middle portion of the ad, the 90s ad that I'm talking about, it's about this woman who's spending time with her family playing games, and while the husband is drinking tea, the tea spills on his white shirt. The husband gets upset about the stain, and the wife very sassily replies that I'll clean it and you'll not even be able to find it. And originally, an interesting anecdote about this is the tagline of this ad was very functional, that that it used to, the tagline was such that, such whiteness can never be found even after searching for spots with a magnifying lens. It was very functional. And when they showed it to women in 90s at that point of time, before releasing this ad, what women said is that they did not like this because it did not embody the sassiness or the coming of age that was there prevalent in 90s. And hence they let go of this tagline, which was so functional, which was so about, where she's taking care of the house, to something which is more sassier. And that is when the agency that worked on this ad came to a shortened line, which is "Dhoonte reh jaoge," which effectively means you will keep on searching, yet you will not find it. So this kind of sass kind of embodied the shift that happened from the 70s to the 90s. Coming to the late 2000s, Indian advertising embraced the modern woman who balanced career and family. The same brand, it shifted from these traditional roles of showing women in a traditional household setup. It in fact showed women as an enabler of her children's pursuit in the Dirt is Good campaign. This was a global campaign. I'm sure a lot of you would relate to Omo's Dirt is Good campaign. And this was a similar rendition in India, which was Daag Achhe Hai. And unlike the other laundry ads at that point of time, unlike the other laundry ads till that point of time, this was a very refreshing take which did not guilt trip the career-oriented woman. It spoke to the career-oriented woman without guilt tripping them. So yes, there has been a change. And hence, looking at all of this, while there have been a lot of stereotypes across categories, there have been some winds of change. What are these learnings for marketeers? And as a person working in the advertising industry, we constantly debate with ourselves that as marketers, do we want to drive change or do we want to depict reality? It's a chicken and egg story, because depicting reality is the easiest way to communicate something. Like showing women in something that she's already used to is the shortest way of establishing relatability and connection. So we believe we are depicting reality. But what does we feel that we are depicting reality, but does the consumer feel so? In the last 2 years, an in-depth survey was carried out with Indian women consumers, and 70% of women felt that they are not represented in advertising the way that they are thinking, breathing, and eating today. That kind of was a big shock to us as a marketing community also, where we felt that, no, we are not depicting reality also. And what this suggests is that advertising of these times has clearly begun to reflect stronger agency. We feel that it is beginning to reflect stronger agency, but it is still very short of the new reality that is being shaped by women. Women consumers are moving very fast and at a pace faster than advertising is learning to portray them. The only way forward for us is to be in touch with culture and to be in touch with consumer aspirations. The only way to talk to our consumer is to have an authentic voice in showing what is true, what is good for the category, what is good for the consumer, without alienating anyone, rather than just doing lip service. And I call out lip service because it shouldn't be a case where you're taking one step forward and you're taking 2 steps backward. I'll give an example. Like if you want to show a career-oriented woman in some ad, not necessarily you just show a woman dressed in office clothes in an office setting, while the setting could also be where a man is trying to help her out. This is kind of again reinforcing the fact that a woman in a corporate setup still needs a man to help her. So this is what I mean by 1 step forward, 2 step backward, the lip service that we should be clearly avoiding. So with these learnings and my own personal experiences across different industries, I worked at P&G, which was in home care. I've worked for J&J, which was into sanitary napkins, which called out for gender equality and getting men into this conversation. And right now, chocolates. So how is it that, these companies where I've been working are having a true and authentic voice in ensuring that, we are not just doing lip service, but we are genuinely integrating women and taking them forward in the conversations that we want to have with the consumers. From my P&G stint, I would like to call out 2 examples. 2 examples of Ariel washing powder liquid, which is about share the load. And this share the load campaign is based on the fact that, 76% of men believe that laundry is solely a woman's responsibility. Ariel's campaign that started in 2015, it challenged this by asking a very pertinent question, that is laundry only a woman's job? And that is when Ariel started these conversations. And every year, year after year, Ariel has been having these conversations. And we are having the 6th installment of this edition. What we've seen this year is that it asks a very straightforward question. Like, men, when they are in university, when they are in colleges, they easily split the tasks between two guys, or three guys staying together. But the same guy, when he gets married, he just believes that it is his wife's responsibility to wash clothes. So it addresses how men may unconsciously favoring sharing chores with roommates or friends over their wives due to this perceived inequality. I'll show the video once I finish talking about Pampers as well. For Pampers is into baby diapers, right? And 2016 mein Pampers started to talk about involving the father in these parenting responsibility. It has challenged the stereotype of mothers as primary nurturers and fathers as occasional caregivers. It has encouraged fathers to embrace equal parenting roles, right? I'm just going to stop sharing and share my screen again for voice.
याद है 62 में जब मधु दीदी सर्विस करने लगी थी,
वो टाइपिस्ट की ना, सिर्फ 6 रुपये तनख्वाह। अब मेरी बहू मेरे बेटे से ज्यादा कमाती है।
किसने सोचा था लड़कियां इतनी आगे बढ़ जाएगी?
अरे औरत होने का मजा इस जमाने में है।
रिया, वो मेरी ग्रीन शर्ट धोई क्यों नहीं?
याद है?
बस पहुंचने वाले हॉस्पिटल, 5 मिनट्स मोर।
प्लीज जल्दी चलो।
हौले हौले रातों को चुपके से आ जा रे।
Congratulations, it's a baby girl. आप बाप बन गए।
सुना है प्रेगनेंसी पेन में 21 हड्डियों के टूटने जितना दर्द होता है। तुमने ये दर्द सहा, पर मैंने तो ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं किया। ये इतना आसान नहीं होगा। आई नो। कभी इसे हंसाने के लिए मुझे रोना पड़ेगा। कभी घंटों जाग के इसे सुलाना पड़ेगा। आधी रात को उठना पड़ेगा तो दिन में खामोशी से रहना पड़ेगा। कभी नई लैंग्वेज सीखनी पड़ेगी तो अक्सर इशारों में ऑर्डर भी मानना पड़ेगा। और हाँ, जो अब तक देखा है, सुना है कि ये सब माँ की जिम्मेदारी है, उसे शेयर करना सीखना होगा। बाप कहने से नहीं बनते, मुझे बाप बनना पड़ेगा।
Yeah. So, I wanted to highlight these two examples from the home care category, where we wanted to call out men to take a more active role and challenge the stereotype of this being only a woman's job. Now, this was an easy category to tackle because home care traditionally women-oriented, and hence, you can easily call out for the men to have a more active part. Coming to the next category that I worked on, which was for stay-free sanitary napkins, right? And sanitary napkins, India is a primarily sanitary napkin market versus tampons, right? And what usually happens in India is my mom talked to me about periods, and it is a tradition that has been continued for generations. It's true for me, it's true for many other girls like me, where it has always been our moms who've spoken to us about having periods when we were 12 or 13. And Stay Free, as a leading sanitary napkin brand in India, wanted to normalize periods, and realizing that if only moms talk about it, they will not be able to normalize periods. The whole intent was showing that having periods is a very normal process, such as respiration or digestion. And what this entire ad was about, convincing dads to overcome their hesitation and engaging with their daughters to have the first period conversation. Like, remember, periods come to girls when they are 9, 10, or 11. They don't even know what is happening to them. They're not even emotionally mature to understand what's happening in their body. And like at this age, when you're perpetuating stereotypes with only the mother talking to her about periods, it just tells her that this is a woman's problem, not to be spoken with men. And fathers are usually never a part of this crucial conversation with daughters. And when such a key parenting partner is absent at such an important juncture, the message that the daughter receives is that periods is a taboo topic only to be discussed in secrecy. Right? So this film kind of encouraged fathers to talk about daughters, promoting positive discussions and breaking taboos about periods. What I'll do is I'll skip this video in the interest of time, because this was an easy category to tackle from a stereotyping perspective, because you know that there is a genuine need to get men involved into this conversation. I'll move to the next category where I'm currently working, which is more of chocolates. And chocolates is something that is universally enjoyed by men, women, children, all alike. And how is it that, in a category like chocolates, we can talk about inclusivity, we can talk about men and women being on the same footing, and how do we do this? So I've given an example over here, which is in 1993. This was in 93 in India, when the business task at that point of time was to was to get adults into eating chocolates, because in the 90s, till 90s, the perception was that chocolates are only for kids, and because of which our market was getting limited. We wanted to expand the market, and hence it meant that chocolate consumption should not be just restricted to kids. We would want adults also to have chocolates. And this was the origination of this campaign. I'll show you the videos after I talk about all of this. And what happened with this is we showed that there is a child in every one of us, and this child comes alive when you're eating a chocolate, because it just takes you to the nostalgia of what it means to be a child. And we did this by using a woman, where a woman is seeing a cricket match, and the emotions that she's experiencing. And I would rather talk about this towards the end, so I'll just show these 2-3 videos, and you'll
Arpita, sorry to interrupt, but you've gone over time. I don't think we have time to show another video, unfortunately. Could you share the video at the end? If maybe if you have any questions related to the video, you can of course talk about it during the roundtable session. Hope you kindly
sure.
Thank you. No, but that's been very interesting and exciting. And that diapers actually advertisement, someone was chatting that it was very emotional, and I was getting emotional even. No, so thanks so much for sharing and giving us that first-hand experience and what's been happening. So now I'm going to hand it over to Maryna, our second speaker, to talk about a little bit of different perspective. It's a B2B company, and let's see how they've been dealing with gender responsive marketing. So Maryna, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, and thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to share Intellias' journey with gender responsive marketing through our She is Tech campaign, and to tell you more about how we're committed to advancing gender equality and also women's empowerment in our marketplace, and actually why this topic is crucial for IT industry. I'm Maryna. I'm Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator at Intellias. Also, I'm a leader of women's community and the head of program committee of She is Tech conference. A few words about our company. Intellias is one of Ukraine's largest IT service company with over 3,000 specialists, creating tech products used by over 2 billion people globally. And 5 years ago, we became the first IT company in Ukraine to sign the Women Empowerment Principles by UN Women. As I mentioned, gender equality topic is really crucial in IT industry, and it's hard to accept that even though women make up 50% of the population, and very few of them hold top positions, and I don't even mention the pay gap for same jobs. And currently, according to Eurostat, women hold only 17% of major technology jobs, such as programming, such as software development, systems analysis, and so on. And this means companies are really missing out on a lot of talented people. Businesses that support gender equality attract better talent, become more competitive, and also build more innovative teams. And also diverse teams bring different viewpoints, which also helps solve problems better and also come up with more creative ideas. So let's start. Miwa, please, next slide. Tech conference is a big event for women in the tech industry. We held our first conference in January this year, and in this presentation, I'll share all the details with you. And our Tech conference campaign, it's not just about marketing, it's about also promoting gender equality in the tech industry. And we really want to boost the number of women in tech roles and help employers do the same. It's also about our reputation as an employer. We want to attract more women to our company and also want to build a stronger client relationship. Plus, we are all about encouraging women to explore careers in the tech and supporting their leadership and career growth. Please, next slide. Here I will tell you in details about our agenda and where we focused on. We focused on three main areas: workplace, leadership, and community, all exploring gender balance in tech. And in the leadership track, we heard inspiring stories from female leaders who've tackled biases, kind of glass ceiling, sticky floors, and other challenges in tech. And their journeys show more women are leading in IT, with more female founders and more executives in global tech companies. Also, the workplace discussions focused on increasing women in tech and also effective employer strategies. We talked about HR practices, diversity initiatives, leadership in tech, also highlighting how diversity actually boosts creativity and problem solving, as I mentioned before, and also crisis management. And in the community track, leaders from tech communities from several countries like Bulgaria, Portugal, Ukraine, Spain, Croatia, Poland shared experiences in breaking barriers and promoting diversity. And also they kind of showed how women in tech communities globally are really empowering women and advancing gender equality in IT. Please, next slide. We had 50 amazing speakers from Europe, Asia, North and South America. And our speakers were experts in gender equality and diversity, also female top managers, community leaders, entrepreneurs. And as you can see, they represented big companies like Google, Slack, Porto, TechHub, Jobberty, Cisco, Deloitte, and so on. And our this diverse lineup of speakers demonstrates also our commitment to gender equality and empowering women. And they show how companies actually can promote gender equality and remove biases in their marketing and also operations. And their experiences also inspire others in IT careers, highlighting also the opportunities available in the tech industry. Next slide, please. I will tell you more about the audience. Our conference attracted more than 2,000 attendees, including top managers, executives, tech professionals, female leaders, other diversity experts, and participation was also free with prior registration, providing also access to the broadcast and networking opportunities. And we also launched our Tech community on Discord during the event. And this community, which now have more than 750 members from more than 15 countries, facilities ongoing communication within our diverse community. So we hold their monthly meetings with different experts on various topics, and are actively preparing for our second conference planned for October this year. Also important to mention here is that engaging such diverse audience helps to kind of spread the message of gender equality, and also the importance of removing gender biases in the tech industry and beyond. And actually, by maintaining an active community, we continue to promote these gender responsive practices and foster an environment of inclusion and support. And the next slide, I will in detail just a few words about audience. I think we missed this slide with audience, but actually we had almost, as I mentioned, 2,500 leads from Ukraine, Poland, Portugal, Spain, Bulgaria, UK, Croatia, USA, Germany, Colombia, and other countries, and India also. And our participants came from various professions, including like tech, HR, recruitment, management, marketing, and others. And here you can see the slide with our partners. We've collaborated with several media partners, also different community partners from different countries, Poland, Portugal, Ukraine, Spain, Croatia. And they have published posts about us on their social media, and resulting in more than 25 posts from partners. And this collaboration has really helped us reach a wider audience and enhance our impact, actually. And also this partnership with various media and community organizations amplify our key message and extend our reach. By working together, we can better promote gender equality and also different inclusive practices in marketing and beyond, aligning also with the goal of women empowerment principles. And the next slide. Here I will, you can see some of our results. We had over 2,000 participants join us, and also a stellar lineup of 50 speakers share their knowledge, experience, visions, and so on. Over 10 hours of engaging discussions, panels, lightning talks, and also we received a lot of valuable feedback from our listeners. And as I mentioned about Discord community, is a community with like-minded women, and this community continues to thrive as a space for networking, collaboration, mutual support, and so on. And the positive feedback and active participation also highlight the success of our efforts to promote gender equality in the tech industry, which is really crucial for building a better digital world. So that's all from my side. Thank you. I will share the link to our She's Tech website. Let's stay in touch, because we are already preparing for She's Tech World 2. We're looking for women in tech, female founders, leaders, other experts in diversity and inclusion, tech professionals, and women empowerment experts to cover the challenges, to cover the opportunities for gender equality and women's leadership in the tech and beyond. So we would love for you to be a part of it. And actually, by staying connected, we can continue to share best practices and collaborate on advancing gender equality and women's empowerment in the tech industry and beyond.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Maryna. So now I will hand it over to Sthu to talk about gender responsive marketing and why it matters. So Sthu, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Miwa. Thank you, Arpita, Maryna, and Anna for excellent presentations. I will not retread what has already been spoken about, except I just want to start off, if you would go to the next slide, Miwa. the issue of stereotypes is a serious one in our society. And when we talk about gender responsive marketing, it is really out of the recognition that all the laws we pass in the world will never really drive the change until, and including bringing in all the players, including the private sector, who yield so much power through the advertising purse that they hold, and how they portray society. So the work that I do within Unstereotype Alliance with my colleagues specifically looks at how we can use advertising as a force for good in the world. And it is clear, I'm sure, for everybody why it is important to unstereotype, why it is important for our communications and our marketing and our strategies to be unstereotyped and to really look and be inclusive. For society, we understand stereotypes are very pervasive and they're destructive. And we can shape the world that we imagine for ourselves based on how we portray, whether we are selling detergent, as Arpita so well spoke and gave us examples of the work that they are doing as a brand, shifting social norms in the market, in India in this case. And what we find, of course, is that advertising does not, and this is what research tells us, advertising primarily still does not portray the world as it is. If we look just as a business imperative, we know that women hold the power of the purse. 70% of brand purchasing decisions are made by women, and this must be good for business. But when we look at the advertising, both men and women, 72% of men and women say advertising does not reflect the world around them, whether it's showing people who they don't know, maybe just two skinny models and not real people, so to speak. And almost half of consumers, 45%, still see ads that are sexist and that offend them. Another research study showed us that in the US in particular, for brands that deliver progressive ads, there is an increase of 25% in purchase intent. Purchase intent is what all brands look after. They want to make sure that people intend to buy from them. And 45% when you talk directly to women. So you realize that when companies do not show people in a progressive way and the world as it, they're really leaving money on the table. 45% of women say they would buy that product if it was progressive. And also what we find is that brands with purpose attracts new generation of consumers. 73% of millennials in the US in particular, and 72% of Gen Zs say they will pay extra for products and services that are showcasing people in empowered ways, but also focused on social and environmental change. So that is a no-brainer for us as we look at that. But I want to share specifically here today about the case, the work that was just shared at Cannes Lions, which is really a first for Unstereotype Alliance. We're working together with Oxford University, Syed Business School. Six members of the Unstereotype Alliance set out to create a robust evidence to show the links between advertising content and sales. And this really to put to bed whether progressive advertising does lead to profitability. This was a massive undertaking, and the focus really was looking at 58 countries. It's a really extensive study. 58 countries, 392 brands, one of which actually is Mondelez, so it's a joy, Arpita. 392 brands across 4 years, from 2020 to 2023, and 5 of some really of the biggest advertisers: Bayer Consumer Health, Diageo, Mars, Mondelez, and Unilever. And what is deemed, this study is really deemed as what is progressive advertising, and analyzing the myriad of work that we have done with Unstereotype Metric, working with Kantar, as well as with Gina Davis Institute. So looking at all of that, and we can share the link for you to look at the immediate findings, what we find is that immediately there's a solid 3.46% sales lift right away for brands and for ads that are progressive and campaigns that are inclusive. And those with higher positive gender representation get on average 3.46 higher sales. And this is a wonderful immediate, because obviously a lot of companies are looking at their quarterly earnings and they want to make sure that they can immediately show the progress of whatever the campaigns are creating. But second, which is something quite interesting for us that we found, is that looking at the longer term sales impact from progressive advertising, we are actually quite impressed with what the results are showing. There's an even bigger impact on longer term sales a year or two after the campaign first is shown. We see a 16.26 higher sales for brands that are higher on positive representation versus brands that are lower. And this is really big impact. And I think the profit motive, of course, remains for many businesses. And we want to make sure that when we are guiding and suggesting that the work be progressive and show people as empowered actors, that also, as you do good for society, you also are making profit. We have always believed this kind of content would have a really positive impact on brands and build stronger and healthier brands. And this was exactly what we saw. Two key pillars of brand equity, according to Kantar, showed up very strongly. Comparing higher versus lower scoring brands and progressive advertising, we see that you get about 10% higher scores on brand meaningfulness and brand difference. And those are two drivers that the long study of Kantar brands has shown: meaningfulness and brand loyalty. And this obviously is how you keep your customers. And this is what drives even lower customer acquisition when you start to acquire more customers in the future. You also get a whopping 52% better willingness to pay higher prices. And this is very important, because if people are going to pay more for your product just because you portray a world that is progressive, that is something that is really meaningful for many businesses. I want to just quickly, with the time that I have left, this is a very important study and a very powerful one, and I encourage you to follow us as we will be launching it in full in September. But I want to just touch on some of the tools that we have created for our members, and certainly can be used by everybody. And Anna alluded to this at the beginning. These are proprietary tools and a framework really to help us create unstereotyped advertising. What we do here is we say it is critical to consider the presence of stereotypes, because advertising has such a far-reaching ecosystem. And the one tool that we have created is called the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps really says, when you are creating your advertising, consider who is present in the ad and from whose perspective is the story being told, and what is the personality of those people that are in the ad. I'm not going to go into the detail of how you cast and all those details, but really it's a very simple tool that you can use when you have created an ad or when you're about to create an ad. And Arpita said it so well, looking at the different scenarios. Who is in the ad and who is doing what in the ad? When we talk about presence, really, we are talking about who's being portrayed in the communication and who is not. Do the characters feel authentic to the story, or they just put there, with no rhyme, no reason? And has the character been taken into consideration in the context of the copy that you are writing, their clothing, their positioning in the story and in the scene, their name, etc.? Does the whole piece of work add up to a positive portrayal? Who's the lead role? Who has the speaking lines? Who's speaking in the ad? Sometimes you find women are just there, they don't speak, like we heard in the automotive sector. They're just sitting there, being beautiful, but that is not progressive, and that is not showing the depth of character that we want to see. And who has the most screen times? Men versus women. We have some studies that are showing in different markets how this is progressing. One of the markets, Turkey, for example, is showing some great progress in who's getting screen time and who's getting to speak, and who's the authoritative voice as well. And then, of course, different sexual orientations and various ages. You've got to consider all of that. And then when we talk about perspective in an ad, we are saying, who is framing the story? Questions here to consider is, am I bringing the personal experience and perspective of the character in this piece of work? Am I reflecting their human truth? Because again, when you bring the human truth, that sticks. Think about the culture and their aspirations and their feelings. And lastly, is this challenging the outdated perspectives and stereotypes about people, communities, relationships, or social norms? Ethnic diversity, think about different skin color. Think about the working characters, progressive gender roles, women in STEM. Are you showing just men or only women taking care of children in a nurse type situation? Who's the nurse? Could a nurse be a man in this case? Are people being sexualized, objectified? Are you showing different body types? This is all part of the perspective. And then lastly, when we talk about personality, this is important, where you got to think about, do the characters come across empowered? Do they have depth of character? Are they funny? Humor actually is one of the things that comes out very strongly, and people take to it if it is used properly in an ad, showing somebody to be humorous. Are they shown as multi-layered, three-dimensional personalities, or they just, sort of flat? This is super important. And we encourage everybody to familiarize themselves with the stereotypes that are at play in their market and in the particular culture, and then to avoid perpetuating them, and consider also the intersecting dimensions of character. Is the person confident? Are they authoritative? Are they independent? Are they witty? Are they funny? Are they caring? These are just some of the big, broad brush strokes that we delve into in these 3 Ps framework, and we encourage our members. And when you do, really, you find that most of the ads, once they've been stress tested with the 3 Ps, they come out fairly performing well on the Unstereotype metric. I want to just talk briefly, if I may, as I close, about another tool that we have created for our members, and I think it'd be useful for all of you here at WEPs, is considering the issue of media, because obviously you create a work, but then you must place it somewhere. And there are some issues, since this is where really the rubber hits the road. It's about procurement. It's about where you spend the money in putting this creative. This second framework, we encourage brands to think about how inclusive is the media planning and the approach of who's going to see this creative output. And sometimes we might create a beautiful work, but really we're still advertising in the same places where none of the diverse communities will get to see it. And so what we say is, there are things that we can do here. And what the working group went on to do here was to create this toolkit which focuses on the brief. The first B, which we call the 3 Bs. The first B is, who are we targeting? Are we leaving people out just by being stereotyped also in the way we are targeting who this creative work or who this product needs to serve? The second B is, do not block. Brand safety, of course, often looks at the block list, but again, are there unintended consequences to blocking certain publications or blocking certain titles that you would not? Because if you think about it, sometimes the smaller publication that are owned by women and diverse communities that might be what you are missing when you already have set out your block list. And then lastly is we look at the last B is the spend. Can we support minority-owned companies by just practically getting out of our general mode? How are we buying? Where are we buying? And who are the platforms that we are spending the money with? I think I've used up all the time I needed to use, but I really just want to say there's a definitive story to be told of profitability when we do progressive advertising and gender responsive marketing. And there are some tools that we provide to help you unstereotype your work, but also as you think about where you place your ads. I'd be keen to answer any questions, but I will not go any further, just so I will not take any more of the time. Thank you so much, Miwa.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sthu. And now we are going to move on to the roundtable discussion / Q&A session. So in the audience, if you have any questions, please share it in the Q&A box so that we can pick it up. Otherwise, I will hand it over to Anna to moderate this session. Anna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Miwa, and thanks everyone, Arpita, Maryna, and Sthu. It's been very insightful. Also to see different approaches from a consumer-based company and marketing and advertising practices towards consumers versus the marketing practices that we heard from Maryna in bringing in a community of women and men that stand for gender equality in tech. We have received a number of questions. One very easy. I believe, Sthu, the study you referred to does not exist yet. There was just some initial findings, correct? Otherwise,
Correct.
If you could share anything in the chat, what
Yes.
people can get back. But otherwise, I think my understanding was that you were recommending that they follow you on social media so that they can get it when it's out. What
Indeed.
channel are you using primarily for that?
We use all our social media, LinkedIn, we use also Instagram, but I will put on the chat a link to just the results that have been shared. It's a 2-pager, it's easy to digest, but the full study will be shared in September. I'll put in the link shortly, the link to the summary of the results that were shared at Cannes. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Other questions are more to do with the challenges that you have and how do you go about making sure that you get it right? We've seen a number of examples where women and men are portrayed in stereotypical ways. How do you go about making sure that these, I mean, we heard from Sthu, for example, that it does make business sense to have progressive portrayal of the characters in the advertising and marketing practices. So that was one question. But also, I mean, maybe we can go to we've got some guidelines today. I think we have talked about the 3 Ps, we talked about the 3 Bs. I think these are some broader guidelines for you to consider. So maybe we could just start with the challenges. We take a round, and then I will read some of the comments are quite lengthy, so I need to read them before I can present them to you. So can we start maybe with Maryna, and then Arpita, and then Sthu?
Yeah, sure. Actually, implementing gender responsive marketing had some challenges. From the IT industry, I think I can highlight a few of them. Like it was really hard to see and fix some unconscious biases in our materials. Also, it took kind of time and effort to change the mindset of the entire team to focus just on gender inclusivity. And also we needed to make sure our commitment to gender responsive marketing was genuine and not just for show. It's very important for us as well. And also maybe like creating content that appeals to all genders without excluding like anyone was also challenging. But actually gender responsive marketing is a continuous process, that needs regular updates and improvements, and it's also a kind of challenge because you have to be on track always. So I think it's from my side.
Thank you so much. Arpita?
Yeah, I think the challenges are quite immense because any ad that you see, it is not just a work of 2 to 3 weeks. It's like a year in making. And so like, anything, because it has got huge multi-million-dollar media monies that are being spent on one 30-second commercial that you see. So there is definitely a lot of thought that goes into it. And in terms of the challenges, like, while everyone has a moral compass in terms of what they feel is right, what they feel is wrong, I think advertising, the category that you operate in, also has a moral code that reflects the fabric of the society, the fabric of the nation. And this fabric could be encompassing the good parts of it and the bad parts of it. You have to keep on constantly treading that line to ensure that you are pushing it in the right direction. So it's that constant questioning that, are you doing the right thing, and is there some part that you're missing out? Is there something that that might not be inclusive enough? Is something, if something doesn't feel right, that is the first instance for you to put your hand up and say that yes, we have been working on this since the past 1 year, but something is not feeling right. So then having the guts to call it out on something that has been worked so hard for so much time is something that I would say that it requires a lot of courage. And that is, I think, one of the biggest challenges in marketing, seeing what is right and then standing up for what you feel is right and driving the course of the communication that you want to drive.
Thank you so much, Sthu.
Correct. I would just add to say it obviously starts with commitment at the top. And this is so important that the CMO, the CEO has bought into the thinking of women's empowerment principles in the first place. Because again, when you look at diversity in the team, in the creative team, who makes the work shows up in the work. And if there are people who have not been considered, they are not in at the table, you are likely to miss some easy stereotypes, of course, in the work, but also the people at the table have to be empowered to have a voice, to be able to make a difference. So if you build a culture in the organization that allows for different voices to be heard, but also to be their point of view to be respected, we see that those type of brands do much better. And this is why studies like these are helpful to convince, if you're a CMO, to convince the CEO to say, hey, there is profit to be made out of us moving in this direction. It takes courage, I agree. It's not something that is necessarily easy because you are changing the social norms, but those who move first certainly will reap the benefits. In young people wanting to work for those brands, but also in women who hold the purse, buying your products, and everybody, I guess, in the world as the brand grows. Thank you.
Thank you much, Sthu. And that touches upon a little bit on the latest question, the fact that the owners of big companies are male and have patriarchal mindsets, so they don't care about gender sensitivity. But I think what we heard today is really there is a strong business case for it, and being first to market actually will reap the benefits. So there is actually also some other interesting, and there are lots of interesting questions, but I have identified, because we are having a few minutes left. One of our participants is asking, in Nepal, companies are not aware about all this gender responsive advertising. How can we sensitize them? How can we help them? And the other question is about large and small scale media. So regarding the media buying, how do you go about the fact that some markets are ruled by large media buying companies, which make it nearly impossible to place ads into small media? Is there any practice recommended when negotiating with media buying companies to add diverse portfolio? And then I would just add a question on my own, one recommendation that you'd like to give to our participants before we close today. So maybe we can take the other way around. So Sthu, you start, and then we'll have Maryna and then Arpita.
Thank you. It is true. Yes, that is correct. You find, and I think sometimes it's just a lazy way. You have a media buying agency. There's kind of clarity of where we're going to advertise, and nobody interrogates those lists that they come up with. So it really takes a leaning forward approach from the CMO to say, we are going to, on top of these that we know are going to give us the returns, we are talking to 80% of our consumers. How about we look into these verticals? Where are women mostly, or mothers, working mothers, whatever the category is, that would not be traditionally caught by the general bigger media? We got to be deliberate to say, how we buy, it cannot just be business as usual. If we're truly going to empower women, but also if we're going to be gender responsive, we got to get out of those set boxes. And this is what unstereotyping is about, unstereotyping your media. And yeah, it's really about making your media buying agencies think deeper and harder and work harder, and not just go for what is low hanging, but go a little further than what is typical. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sthu. And yes, we want to address the systemic issues and not just the easy to do. So thanks for that recommendation. Maryna?
Yeah, from my side, I think like when negotiation with large media buying companies emphasize the value of reaching a niche audience through some smaller media outlets, suggests maybe some bundled deals that mix big and small media, set maybe some clear diversity goals also, and provide some data showing the effectiveness of small media. And actually like work with small media to strengthen their appeal. I don't know, it's kind of a subjective point of view from my side.
Thank you so much. Arpita?
Interesting question. I'll cite an example. Same laundry category. So like we want to target men to get involved into washing clothes. But what would happen is, from a media buying perspective, because we wanted to reach women, we would advertise in the afternoon hours, because in the afternoon hours the men are not at home. That is the time when the woman gets to see TV, and that is the time we felt that we were reaching our consumers. So in a way, through comms, we are communicating something, but through our media buying, we are eventually only reaching women. So your media buying also needs to fall in line with the broad objective. And this involves being brave, being open to making different choices, being okay, putting a stand in terms of, yes, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm communicating, and I'm going to be practicing what I'm preaching. Let it be if it comes at a cost. Because the long-term gains overcome the short-term threats that you might possibly see.
Great. Thank you so much. I think, Miwa, we'd like to launch a poll.
Yeah, so we have two things that'll be coming up. Poll right now is to kind of like assess your knowledge of what you've learned through today's session, and then we're going to get evaluation survey. So if you could answer this poll, it'd be great. Which of the following considerations are important in determining the importance of gender equality for your marketing and advertising practices? So this is for us to understand what your thoughts are, so that we can incorporate into our blog and our future works on this topic. So while we are getting answers for this poll. Anna, would you like to close us off as we are running out of time?
Yes. So first of all, I'd like to thank our speakers today. You've been fantastic in giving different perspectives of gender responsive advertising and marketing. As we said up front, this is part of the WEPs Principle 5 to engage in the marketplace. And you're given not only different perspectives of what you can do as a B2C and a B2B company, but also some guidelines that we heard from Sthu on the 3 Ps and the 3 Bs. I think it's easy to remember some of the guidelines. We'll write this up in the blog article that follows with the recording that we will share with you. And we really hope that you are now having a better understanding of why this is important, but also how your company, how your organization have the power of driving change, driving social change in social norms, gender norms, and to eliminate gender stereotypes, to look at the world in a more diverse manner. So I'd like to thank you all so much for your participation, both in the chat and in the Q&A function, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I hope you have a great one. And we are skipping the month of August, but we'll see you again in September with another interesting topic. So please stay tuned. Have a great one.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.